Welcome back. Morning, Charlie. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Doing great. Welcome back to this is episode 12 of Between Two Viewers. We are cranking these things out. This is great. Thank you for being a part.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. I love your pots, by the way. I was geeking out to them this morning.
Thank you very much. I was telling you earlier, I watched you and Phil working the other day, and you pulled up a jar, and I actually made my version of that jar.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No kidding. Which one?
it was that one. It was like really like low and wide, and then came in a little bit, and then had like a sunk lid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, where the hell is that thing? Oh, shoot. I don't know where the hell it went. I'm trying to make pots right now for Flower City Pottery Invitational.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Dude, I'm stoked. I just got invited the other day. Actually, Wes Brown, who was on the show, he's the one who invited me. So I'm pretty excited. Because when I was a younger potter, I used to go to that show and go, oh, you guys are gods, you know?
Yeah,
So to be in it, it's cool as shit.
that is. I think is Richard Arney's in that show, isn't he?
I believe he is, yeah. Yep. So he's kind of one of the first guys that ever did the butts that I make. You've seen these things, right?
That where you put clay in there to start the pots out?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the beginning of all my jars. Hold on, I'll show you the jar. And I make all sorts of sizes. You know, see, so this jar is the base of it.
Nice.
So it's like every time you take the base off, boom, it's the exact same base every time.
Man, it looks like it's thrown too. I think before I'd seen these pots, and before I saw you talking with Phil, I didn't know that they were all hand built.
Aha, tricked you.
Yeah.
Good to know. You know, one lady, I taught a class at Arama. She said, you got to teach us how to get the walls nice and straight. I was like, you just got to keep trying. You know, I'm a profile guy. Like, I like to look down that side and see if it's like even. I don't know. It's also Sunshine Cobb's method.
Okay.
Where it's like coil, and then she takes the rib and she supports it inside and scrapes it. You know, so it's a nice flat. You can kind of control it once you get used to it.
Have you thought about making them on the wheel?
I love throwing on the wheel, by the way. Where's my wheel? Right over there. Actually, I threw these just the other day.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I was
addicted
to the wheel. Yeah, see? Like this. I love the wheel. It's just fun. I still throw my mug bodies.
Okay.
And then I alter them. But I can probably hand build something just as fast, if not faster, than throwing it on the wheel. I mean, if you think of all the stuff you have to do before and after, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's the after stuff that kills me. It's like I can do it pretty quick on the wheel, and then I can spend like another hour on that piece after throwing it for 15 minutes.
Absolutely. Yep. And then there's no trimming.
Yeah.
Right. I get, like I said, the older I get, the less I want to mess around. So yeah, I don't have to trim. You know, even I did some mugs the other day with smaller bases, and these are just kind of big, giant, screwing around mugs. But yeah, they just all have the same base too.
Nice. I like that handle.
Yeah, thanks. I like to hand build handles. I pulled them for a long time, and then I started pinching a few years ago, and I really try to focus on that inner line.
Yeah, that negative space in there.
Yeah, the negative space. To me, this is kind of big for the form, but I threw them and figured, what the hell? I'll stick them on there, but that works. But with these butts also, right? So if you make a couple of bowls, they're like stackable.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And yeah, then when you get them, yeah. I always think about that, like stacking them and putting them in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Like they gotta go into the dishwasher well. So.
Yeah. And not hold the water on the end. When you flip it over, it's got that puddle in the bottom.
This is the guy this is the one. This is the piece I made like based on.
Ah, yes.
Yep. I had to put a bird on it though.
I freaking love your your forms, your animals, man. Do you do sculpture? Did you do sculpture in high school or something? Or
No, you know what? I was really when I was in college and I was making pots, I was really just a thrower. I like to put like a lot of movement and stuff into the pots, but I
yep.
was really just a thrower. And I thought about painting on them, but what I don't know if you've had this experience too, but I had like a like a cheap sumi brush for a drawing class to like
Yep.
put ink down on a paper. And so I'd see these Japanese pots with this like calligraphy type painting on them, and I tried to do it with this like cheap sumi brush that was like a mop,
Yeah.
and it didn't work. And I thought it was just my ability to like lay down material. And what I realized as I got older is like, oh no, you need the right brush to do
Yeah.
the right thing. And if you
Yeah.
don't have the
Right
right brush
tool
to
for
do
the
the
right
right
job.
thing, it's like, yeah, you just can't do it, or
No.
it makes it really hard.
Well, you can't do it well, right?
Right.
Like, even in golf, when I teach people, I said those clubs you have are only going to get you so far. As you
Yeah.
progress as a golfer, you're going to need better equipment because you're going to start missing because you're playing with crappy clubs, and you're going to think it's your swing, and it's not. Hold on, let me grab that jar. So, I think you were talking about this one here. Was it this one?
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So making lids fit. Very interesting when you're not calipering them.
So are you, and you're just, do you get like a lot of warping when you're hand building those and firing them? What do you fire to 6?
Yeah, I go to 6. Not really. Do you know what I did notice though? Maybe you have an answer for this because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Where the hell did I put it? Oh, this one. So I did a workshop for Ceramics Arts Network there, Ceramics Monthly, on casserole dishes. So I had to make like 4 of them because it had to be done cooking show style.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to be able to like, yeah, it's like show.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's like here's one leather hard, and here's how you do the. So I was trying to tell them when I was doing it, like making this lid fit is hard enough, but trying to make it fit the next day is way harder. So what I did, like I always put these, like the gathers or the galleries in there.
Yeah.
Right? So this one, just for quickness of the class, the workshop, I didn't finish them. I didn't go all the way around. And sometimes I'll actually leave a little space, just a little space for dumping water out when you wash it.
Yep.
But what I think is this lid, see it?
Yeah.
Right there. I think when it was sitting in there and firing, where those 2 spaces were was not as hot as where the rim was, and it went.
Do you think it's heat, or do you think the clay is getting pyroplastic? Do you think it's like it's getting soft and moving?
I don't know. All I know is
Man,
it's friggin'
I,
warm.
I mean, this is at Cone 10, but I teach at Guilford College half-time, and I remember I had a student who made these baskets with these really tall, long handles, and they were pretty thin, and one of them had cracked at the top, and I was like, oh, we'll just fire it and see what happens. And when we pulled it out of the kiln, that handle had like laid all the way down onto the shelf, and it had not broken. And it was like, it had just like, it looked like it had just been like soft, like really soft in the firing.
And that was with the correct tempered clay body? I would only see that as like if you had the wrong clay.
Well, we did make that clay. She did make that clay. So, but it was like from a recipe that was supposed to go to like 10 or 11 or something.
Yeah. I made some clay the other day. It's funny. I got a buddy. His name's Matt Hiller. Hiller. You got to check out his. I shared them the other day. They're beautiful.
That black teapot, was that the one?
Or
no, it was a different one.
No, I think I have one of his pieces here. That's upstairs. He's like, he'll put up a teapot that's just so freaking perfect. And I sent him a message. I'm like, these are bordering on rude. Like, would you make a mistake? But it's so funny because I'm like, I texted him and I said, I bet your tools are really nice and clean, aren't they? And you're right. He's like, actually, no. And I said, well, I just love how perfect your pots are. And he said, that's kind of one thing I don't like about my pots. He said, I love the imperfection in your pots.
Yeah.
So, everyone wants what everyone else has, I guess.
I know, right? Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm pretty, I'm pretty tight about like the surfaces. I'm running a metal rib over everything. And I look at others really like soft, gentle pots, and I'm like, oh, I love those, but I can't do it. I've tried.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not in the cards.
No, no, and this my steps in ceramics got me to where I am now. I'm constantly learning. I just made these two colors this morning. I got a pink and a vanadium yellow. And what's fun is now that this piece is cracked on the bottom, I'm gonna do a glaze test on it.
When you say you made them, are you mixing them like just all raw materials?
Terracige.
Okay.
So I was actually reading Rhonda Willer's book this morning. Have you seen that book?
No, is it low fire? I don't read a lot of low fire stuff.
It's a terrasigilata book.
Nice.
So I just taught a workshop for Frank Arts. Tommy Frank, frankarts.com.
Okay.
And it was on terrasigilata. And at the beginning of the class, I said, "Okay, we're here for me to teach you how I do what I do, right? If you want to do it correctly, you should probably read this book.
Yeah.
Right? This is right. Like what I do is, a spastic way of getting the surface that I want. I'm not a measurer. I'm not a tester.
You just you're just like adding some stuff in here and there and just see what works.
Dump, shake. Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's people that do like the specific gravity and all that great stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't have the time for that.
Yeah, and if you don't need it, if it's not what you're going for, I feel like people make their careers off of challenging what some other expert says, like you can't do this or don't do this. Like you think about like Gail Nichols pots of like those high alumina clay bodies, and it's like you read Dan Rhodes' book, and it's like don't have too much alumina in your clay body. It's like her whole career is like too much alumina in the clay body.
I have a buddy who's making a clay body now using pumice. He's trying to make clay with a resource that's more readily available to us as we go into the future. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
Do you know what pumice has in it? Like what are the?
I don't. His name's James Tingey. He's super smart. He runs the clay store at Alfred University, and I love talking to other potters. But some of them that are so smart, I go, "You lost me like a paragraph ago." I'm like, remember, I'm a golfer who makes mugs. I love when I see their face. I'm like, oh my God, it was. I was at Pentaculum at Aramont. Speaking of Aramont, have you been there?
No. I heard you and Phil talking about it. My family went a couple winters ago, like right after between Christmas and New Year's, and we are like coming into Gatlinburg, and I had my GPS set up, and I saw the sign that said like "Welcome to Gatlinburg," and I looked down at the phone. It's like it says it's an hour and a half to Aramont. It's like in Gatlinburg. Like and I come over this hill. And it's a parking lot. The road is just a parking lot. And I was like, oh, it's going to take me an hour and a half to drive like 3 miles.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
We like literally couldn't get over there that weekend or that time we were up there unless we wanted to spend like a couple hours just driving through.
Yeah, there's like if this is Aramont, there's town this way and then the real world this way. I never go that way. It's just a waste of time. You'll be stuck.
The real world is not the city, I assume, or not the honky tonk town.
Not the madness of downtown. Oh, it's crazy. But so what I was saying was, Pentaculum Bertie Boone was there, and she's Bertie's an amazing potter, and she makes amazing glazes and beautiful stuff, and she's super smart. She's one of them, and we were talking about her glaze process in the glaze room there, and she says, well, don't you remember the M scale from Glaze Calc? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, well, didn't you go to Alfred? I said, yeah, for theater. She's like, and then she had this look on her face like, oh, you're a moron. I was like, now you got it.
How did you end up where you are, having gone to Alfred and not having like taken clay classes there? Do you ever like wonder?
All the time. It's funny. A couple years ago, I said to my buddy Pete, who was a Alfred grad, I said, I'm thinking about going back to Alfred and getting a degree in ceramics. And he said, why would you go back to school to learn and to make and sell pottery? You're already making and selling pottery. He said, that seems like a waste of money. But I met people who were potters, and I didn't have, one of my questions with, for people is, where did you first find clay? And most people say high school. I didn't really have it in high school. I was a spaz. I was doing whatever the hell I was doing in the 80s. So I found it late in life and just completely fell in love with, like you said, the wheel, right? The wheel was challenging. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to figure this out. And I learned to throw with Wayne Higby's scraps. You know who Wayne Higby is?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Famous raku guy. He was a
Yeah.
professor at Alfred. And I had a buddy who was one of his studio assistants. So he would take his porcelain scraps and bring them over to me in these big blue buckets, and I would try to teach myself how to throw with this porcelain that was made to be tile. So it took a while.
Yeah, I bet.
Ugh, it was brutal, but anyway.
So so you were up there for theater. I didn't even know. I mean, I don't know much about Alfred except their ceramics program. There
Yeah.
actually, apparently, there's a Tefft Hall there. Do you know that this Tefft Hall
What? Where?
at
Really?
Alfred?
No. I'm gonna find it now, though. I'll send you a picture from the sign.
There's there was like some Teffts out in the Midwest or something that were making pots, or maybe I don't know, maybe New York too.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. But what was cool though is that I got to meet everybody. Like, John Gill and Val Cushing were just. Val Cushing was my buddy's dad.
Okay.
I know his son Eric pretty well, and like, I didn't know that he was this god of ceramics. He was just Val.
Yeah, and
So,
he was probably really down to earth and
dude, he was the nicest guy. He would come to my house when I was on the studio trails when I was first making pots, and I'd see him come across the yard. I was like, oh God, throw everything I made in the trash.
what were those first pots like? What kinds of stuff were you making at the beginning?
I was trying to make teapots and stuff, and just vases and jars, and everything was heavy, and
Were you
boring.
hand building then too, or were you throwing them all?
No, I was strictly throwing for the first, couple of years. It's funny. I just applied to the Ceramics Monthly Emerging Artist thing the other day, and it says you have to be under 10 years. And I think I started in about 2009 or 2008. But the problem is I only make pots half a year.
Oh, so can you count that?
I
Can you
don't know.
just
We're
can
going to find out. I literally can't touch clay in the summer. I tried. Like last summer, I get to the end of the making season, and I blocked off on my calendar Tuesdays. I'm going to make pots on Tuesdays. That's it.
Yeah.
I didn't never touch clay.
So the golf is. Are you traveling a bunch for that? I would imagine that you're probably not at home at all during that time.
Well, the course that I run is about 2 miles from my house, so it's good and bad. Like I'm kind of on call all the time, and I've been there so long. My buddy owns the golf course that I pretty much run the place, and he mows the greens.
Okay.
So it's really busy. We got named best public course in Rochester by Golf Magazine last summer.
Nice.
It's a really good golf course. I do travel for some tournaments, but I'm pretty much just there every day.
Okay, so you're like managing this course is like
Yeah.
and that's your full-time job. And
Yes.
now did you start making and selling pots because you needed something to do, or was this like a did you feel like you needed the income or
No,
what's
not really. No, it's just something I love to do. I was telling actually Phil on the podcast with Phil. I said, I'm really lucky that I have a job, right? I'm not doing this for a living. I mean, I'd love to, but that changes the making process, I think.
it does? Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to have to make for a living. I'm lucky to be able to sell pots. I'm really humbled and pleased that people want to buy what I make. It's great, but it's not. I don't have to, which is nice. But So tell me about Guilford College. You said you teach part time?
I teach part time there. Yeah, so I'm actually a grad of Guilford. I graduated in '97. I did a BFA while I was there,
Uh huh.
and I moved down to Atlanta. Was making pots down there full time for almost 2 years, and then the spring of '99, they asked me to come back and teach one class for one semester,
Oh wow.
and I've been there since. So my my former teacher, she had been there for probably about 24 years at that point, and she was ready to go. And it was just a halftime position, or yeah, at that point, I think it was just adjunct. But when I got there, they made it into a halftime position, and so I teach two classes a semester. They're about right now they're like 3 hours long, so it's like 2 days a week,
Is that ceramics?
and it's ceramics. Yeah,
Oh, very
yeah.
cool.
Right now, I'm teaching. I always teach like a beginner wheel throwing class. There's lots of students who want to do that, and I'm teaching a art and science of glaze class with a science professor, like team teaching.
Oh,
So
neat.
she's doing like the hard dive into the chemistry side of it, and I'm talking about like materials and mixing and
Yeah.
firing and those things. So it's fun. I love it. It's it's really great way to break up my week. I'm teaching Mondays and Wednesdays, and so I'm in the studio Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays,
Oh, that's wonderful.
and through the summer.
You know, it's
And
funny. So Alfred University is a is a separate entity from the Alfred Ceramic School. The Ceramic School is actually a state college.
okay,
So a couple of years ago, they put together this program to offer like beginner wheel throwing to the students from Alfred University to try to get more funding into the ceramics college, right? And I know all the professors over there, so I said, "Hey, I'll teach that class." I said, "I'll teach it for clay." You know what I mean? You can pay me in clay, or maybe give me a studio. I don't even care. Give me a space in the corner. And they said, "No, you need to have an MFA to teach that class." What? Wait,
yeah,
really?
I don't have an MFA. I fell through the back door into this job, and I was looking at going to graduate school that first spring of '99 when I was teaching there. I'd applied to a bunch of places, and I'd gone and I'd visited Penn State. I visited Chris Daly up there,
Oh, cool. Yep.
but I came away from that interview. I like it was I don't know. It was so I was living in Atlanta. I grew up in Maryland, so I drove up to Maryland. I picked up my mom because I hardly ever saw my parents at that point, and we drove up together. And we got there, and she was the kind of person who's like, "All right, I'm off. I'll meet up with you in like 2 hours, right?" She's like, "Go find something to do, no problem." But we like I meet up there, and Chris is like, "You brought your mom with you?" And I was like,
What's wrong with that?
I was
Yeah.
like,
I
"Yeah,
love my.
I live in Atlanta. I hardly ever see her." He was like, oh, "Okay," but he just sort of looked at me uh, when I got there, like who are you and why are you here? And I had like confirmed with him a couple days before that I was coming to like see it, like coming up for this interview,
Oh no.
and it just threw me off. And he really challenged me in ways I hadn't been challenged. I think at that point, so I was teaching at Guilford. I'd gotten into this Don Davis book. I had my like teapot right next to Warren McKenzie's in this Don Davis book, and this other book that Lark Books had put out. I'd gotten a piece in there. It was like just out of school, and I was like feeling
Yeah. Look at
like
me.
king of the world. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is gonna be easy getting. And I went up there, and he just asked me questions I didn't have answers for, and just challenged me in ways that I hadn't been challenged. And I came away from there. I came away from there. I got back to my parents' house. Lisa Young, who was my teacher from high school, and I was like living or college, and I was living with her and her husband because it was like such a quick transition to like coming up and teaching at Guilford that
Yeah.
they're like, we'll put you up for a couple weeks until you find something. And and she calls me up and is like, "Hey, I just got a call from Scott Killinger from Ceramics Monthly that I had won like the Scott Kiln Purchase Award from this show at NCECA
Oh
and
no way.
for this teapot I made." And I was so bummed. I was just like, okay. I just was like, I was so deflated.
Yeah.
But that talk with Chris kicked my ass, but really like made me think about my work differently, and started me kind of like sort of geared me towards the path I'm on. now of making these pots that I feel like are really about like my love of animals from like my childhood. And
Yeah.
and it was years later I wrote him an email. I was like, Chris, I want to thank you for like meeting with you really changed my
Did
ceramics
he
life.
say who's this?
No, he remembered me. No, because you know what happened? So I was like, I'm not going to get into there. And a couple weeks later, I get a phone call from Liz Quackenbush, and it was like I was in the studio at Guilford working late at night, and I get this phone call. I thought that was probably the number I put down. It's probably like 9 at night, and I talked to Liz for like 30 minutes, maybe longer. And then I get another call back, and it's Chris, and he's like, "Hey, we're interested in you coming to Penn State, but we got to like know if you're going to come before we basically offer it to you."
Wow. Yep.
And at that point, Guilford had said, like, "Hey, you want to stay here and work at Guilford and be halftime?" And I thought, I don't know if I want to give this up for that. I wasn't convinced that was like the right fit for me.
Yep.
And so I didn't go. And I thought I'm going to go to graduate school to try to come back and get this job at Guilford. Like I should just like keep the job. If Guilford's offering me the job, to stay here.
Isn't life crazy when it's kind of like they say you find love when you stop looking for it?
Yeah.
Right? Like you're like gung ho to get this job and you don't get it, and then it comes back to you when you're not, when you don't, you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
not ready
Well,
for it.
yeah, but I didn't. So I stayed at Guilford. I didn't end up going.
Yeah. Was that Chris Staley?
That was Chris Taylor, yeah. But
Yep.
so I saw him. So I saw him. He came to the North Carolina Clay Conference a couple of years ago. That was probably more than a couple, but we hung out. He is an intense dude, and he is wicked smart around ceramics, and to
Yeah.
just hang out with him, and
Yeah.
it was nice. It was nice to like get to talk to him and not feel that stress of like, am I going to get into the school here? I've just talked to him about
Yeah.
ceramics.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the guy I talked to last week uh, got that job. That's Wes Brown, works at Penn State.
Okay, yeah.
hmm He makes cool stuff. Big, giant, clunky teapots. I don't want to use the word clunky. I shouldn't say that, but it's giant, thick slabs slapped together around a throne piece. Have you seen that? It's really cool.
I think that was the black teapot. There's like a
Yes.
teapot. Yes. Yeah. Those like that's the kind of work that I like look at and I'm like, "Oh, I love that stuff. I can't make it."
See, I'm the other way. Like I look at your stuff. I'm like, this is so perfect. I can't make it. Yeah, that's a beautiful handle. Are you porcelain or is that a white stoneware?
This is a mix. I'm using a B mix and this domestic porcelain called P10, and I'm like taking like a box of B mix and mixing it with a bag of P10. But you can't get P10 anymore because high water got destroyed and it was a high water clay. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do. I have like a pretty good supply right now. I probably have like 1,000 pounds of that mix, and we'll see what happens. Did that affect you at all? Are you using any high water stuff? Or?
No, the clay I use, you can only get at Alfred. It's actually a Laguna clay, but they make it specifically for Alfred. And it's a dark red, really really groggy. It's a total. You can't barely throw with it. It tears your hands up. But I love it because the way I slap stuff together, it'll hold its form. So it's kind of,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have some clay down here called Grogawimi. Have you seen that stuff out of Star, North Carolina?
Oh yeah, no, I saw that at Ensika.
Yeah, Takaro's making that stuff, and
Yep.
Phil and I collaborated. Phil Harlem and I collaborated on some pots for NC Cup with the one that got canceled.
Yep.
And but we were using that clay, and I'd used it a little bit, but we used it a bunch for some sculptures. And man, that stuff can be dry, and you can stick it together, like
Yeah,
stick
yeah,
it
yeah,
together with some slip, and it's like fine.
yeah.
It doesn't care at all. It was so nice. I've used it, ended up getting some for my class because I thought, God, this stuff's so forgiving. Like it's
Yeah,
pretty hard to
exactly.
make it crack.
I think that's kind of what brought me to this clay is you can be a total spaz and it's okay. Um, I really enjoy Phil. He's a great guy. And Ron, I could just talk to all day long.
I know. I talked to him yesterday for a little while, and yeah, you were going to ask me about the Thrown Together folks. I feel like so lucky that I
Yeah,
met them. They asked me to be in their group, and just the sort of like depth of knowledge in that group around
yeah,
different things, and just having some camaraderie around clay.
yeah, You can't beat it.
Nice.
I love other potters. Honestly, that's one of the reasons I started this show. You know, Phil was saying, dude, this is really smart. This is a great idea. This is going to be a great success. I said, you know, it's kind of selfish. And he said, why? I said, because I want to talk to you guys. This is great for me, right? Like, I hope it's fun for other people to watch, but it's also great, you know, because I want to talk to these other great potters.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Find out
you know
some
what's
new stuff.
you know what's crazy about Phil is when I went to Alfred, I was, oh gosh, how old was I? 30 when I went to Alfred. I ended up having a buddy named Mike Minnie from Philly, and it turns out 20 years later, I found out that him and Phil were lifelong best friends.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. I saw you
How
guys
weird
talking
is
about
that?
that.
Small world.
That
So we were
is.
talking. I was writing down when you were talking about talking to Chris Staley and about getting into that book next to Warren McKenzie, and it's interesting that the recognition is nice. It doesn't always equate to success.
Yeah. You know what? I think I don't know if you've had this experience. It used to be you had to take slides of everything and then you like send them off to shows to get
Yep.
into shows. And I remember I'd probably apply to like 10 things a year to get
Yep.
into just to show pots. It might be like two or three pieces at a show. And at some point I just was like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna like jump through this hoop. I'm just gonna try to make the best work I can make and sell it locally back
Yep.
then. And it was really not focusing on that is when the success started to build. And it was probably things I'd done over time, but like I had a Ceramics Monthly did a article on me.
Hmm.
Um, and you get this thing printed in Ceramics Monthly, and you're the sort of expectation is like, oh man, the
Here we go.
floodgates are going to open. It's like I'm going to get phone calls, I'm going to get emails, like people are going to be like seeking me out. I think I
Yep.
got like two people called me
Yeah.
and wanted pots, and other than that, it was like crickets. And then like, and I also had something in like Clay Times, and like that was before probably the Ceramics Monthly, and that was even like I didn't get anything from that, I but another artist was talking to me about this, and he was saying, he's like, it's like a marathon, right? It's not a race. And
Hmm.
he's like, you get out of school, you start off, you're like looking around, your buddies are doing it, people you knew in school, and then pretty soon you're looking around, you're like, oh, not that many people are doing it anymore
Oh
at
yeah.
that age. And it's sort of like the people just sort of fall off, and at some point you're like one of the few ones that's been doing it that long from that
Hmm.
group. And I think it's like the building blocks. It's like the stairs to get the recognition or to for people to find you is really slow. And I think if you're expecting it to be quick, it's going to be disappointing.
100%. Absolutely. Um, eh, and that's one of the reasons I think I love clay is because I'm a jumpy, speedy, let's get this done. Let's do it this way, get it done, get it now. And clay does not operate that way. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
I first learned on the wheel, I remember going to this community place and throwing on the wheel, and this lady that was teaching the class, she just kept saying, "Slow your wheel down." I'm like, "Wee!" So yeah, it's just I think I talked yesterday with Kate Maratz. You know her? She makes those beautiful coil pots.
I might know her pots, but the name doesn't ring a bell.
Pretty much everybody I talk to says it's going to take time. You're going to have a long time of making bad pots. You know,
Yeah.
the good pots will come. You will find your voice through making pots you don't like, through making pots other people don't like. you
And
know?
yeah, hopefully you'll like them when you're making them, but you'll look back and say like, "Gosh, they weren't that good." But
Yeah.
hopefully while you're making them, you're like, "Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing."
So does your mom have shelves full of old crappy pots of yours?
Uh,
Mine does.
my mom passed away like
Oh, I'm
about
sorry.
a while ago,
Uh-huh.
but my dad had my dad's house. There's like he's in the same house I grew up in, and my
Oh, okay.
mom lived around the corner after they got divorced when I was in after college. So But yeah, she had a lot of pots of mine, and yeah, sometimes I look at that stuff and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, yeah. My mom still has them in her kitchen. I go, would you throw all that away? She's like, oh no, it's like your journey. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, it's terrible. Oh well.
Man, my dad has dated a few women since him and my mom were divorced, and some of them have collected my pots, and some of them I've like had great relationships with. And one of them, when she was moving in with her kids, was like, I don't have room for all this stuff, and sent me back some pots, and they were like from early on when I was painting, and it was great to get them back. I was like, some of them were like, not, it's like I've learned a lot since those days, and my skill with a brush has increased dramatically.
Oh yeah.
But it was cool to get those pots gifted back to me.
Yeah.
And then she needed something for her like son needed like a lighthouse on a mug from like up in Maryland, and I was like, totally, I'm gonna take this for you. Don't even send me money. I'm not taking it.
Speaking of the recognition thing, this right behind me, that I was in that Ceramics Monthly in 2023 for a teapot, which I have up on the shelf. It was called a laid back teapot, and just getting the email from a guy who was a self-taught potter was mind blowing to me, that, this is the end all. Here we go. Like,
Yeah.
let's hit the ground running, and it's the same thing. Yeah, I mean, it was great, and I super appreciate it. Actually, this pot you were just talking about, this one was for an article for Pottery Making Illustrated, which I think is coming out this month. I think. So yeah, like you said, it's a marathon, man. Just keep, and that's what you'll see as I put snippets up from this chat, and it's kind of a common theme from other potters is just keep making pots.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've done that, and I've really, like you were saying, there's like you might meet some really famous people, and you talk to them, and they're like, oh no, I could never make a living off of my pots, and you're like, what? You're like on the cover of Ceramics Monthly, like, like how? And you realize that like fame and making money is two different things, and you might see somebody's pots, and you're like, they're not really that great, but they're making like they're like cranking them out, they're like meeting a certain need and they're doing it. But I really focused on, I was like, I don't want to be so much famous as I want to like make a living on pots, or like, and I know I teach half time, but if I had to quit one of those things, teaching would have to go, because I did not make enough teaching. I make considerably more making pots than I do teaching.
Well, people ask me all the time, why don't you just do this for a living? I said, I'd have to sell a lot of coffee mugs to pay my salary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How many? Yeah. What do you think?
It's funny. So that's another thing about work is I was just telling my wife yesterday, I consider myself seasonally retired.
Yeah.
Like, because in the winter, the golf course is closed, and I've been doing it like that for 15 years. Or 20 years. There's not many places that are going to pay me well enough to actually go to work and train me, and me tell them, oh, by the way, I'm leaving April 1st.
That's awesome, though.
It's fantastic. So I teach a lot of lessons, and I save that money, and I just live off of that in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but I would have to sell a lot of pots to make up for that. Speaking of which, I made this big giant head. You see this thing? Did you see the video I posted yesterday?
Where is it? I might be behind my screen.
Here, this beast. Oh God, it weighs about 30 pounds.
Nice. Is it solid?
No, it's coiled, right? So I put it up on Instagram yesterday, and my buddy's like, "Oh, dude, that's an awesome piece." And I said, "Yeah, I could have made 50 mugs out of that thing."
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I do a lot of big stuff.
You know what? I used to make more big pots, and then when the pandemic hit and I shifted, I had a great in-person year set up. Like I just sort of like dialed it in. I knew where I was going to go. I was selling pots, a lot of pots at those places, and then pandemic hit, and I was like, I don't sell anything myself online hardly, and I just had to make that transition. I sold everything online that year. It was the best year I've had, but I started making. I've started making like a lot of smaller pots because they're easier to pack and ship. And if
Yeah.
it's like big and cumbersome, and it's like, oh, I got to find a box for this like giant thing. And
Yeah, and then you throw it out there in the world and you just cross your fingers.
yeah, you
Like, I
hope it
hope it
makes
makes
it.
it.
You hope it makes it, and then it's like, and now to fill a kiln, it's like, I gotta paint so many pots to fill a kiln. It used to be I gotta have like a bunch of big things. I might have like 10 mugs. Now I have like 40 mugs in there, and I just have like a few bigger pieces.
Yeah, like, I started kind of geeking out down this floral like avenue, which I really did.
Yes, I'm loving those. The color,
Dude, it's
the
bright,
punch.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny. Here, I'll show you the other piece. I did a trough the other day. Here's my dumb dog. Lady, what do you want? She's like so smart, she's stupid. You know what I mean? I made this big trough piece the other day, this thing,
Nice.
which is like 20 inches long. It's a big sucker. It's got a foot on it, which was fun. But someone's like, oh, I love those saturated pots. And I was like, well, I didn't saturate the photo. Like, I think they thought that I made the colors brighter.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like all I did was make the background darker, so the back, and it just makes it bright. I'm like, I'm telling you, I didn't like look, it's
Yeah.
bright no matter what.
So those are all you're using like terracage on the outside there, and underglazes as well, or is it all?
Yeah, so it's terracage first, and then underglaze over the terracage. Yep.
And was this the one that you were spinning on the Lazy Susan the other day?
Yep.
Yeah.
This one. Yep. That one, and I made another one. And so I like you were saying about painting pots. I love this. I did about 4 mugs. Actually sent one to Ron Philbeck. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I would love to do a line of floral mugs, but it's ugh.
I know. And then you think like, can I like, from like a financial point, from like a business standpoint, it's like, can I make enough money off of these that's like worth the time?
Yeah. Speaking of which, what do you sell your mugs for?
I'm selling them for 85.
That's actually not bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I used to hate making mugs, but now I love it because it's like, oh, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good payday, and I pretty much like I think I have like one. I might have one in my shop, but I might not from last year. But I pretty much if I make them, they're gonna sell.
Yep.
But then awesome. I'd like some friends of mine making mugs like $150 mugs. It's like that would be nice, but I also I don't know. I want people. I know at like 85, it feels like it's like bordering that point where it's like, is this affordable for people?
That's a nice number. I mean, for your pots, which are basically a one-of-a-kind painting on every pot, right?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to paint this like hiding rabbit right here. Get in there with my little like number 1 or like 0 brush.
Yeah, so I mean, the town I live in, Little Naples, New York, it's a little tiny town, and there's a bunch of old ladies that play in our league at the golf course, and when I tell them I'm a potter, there's this one lady, Pat, she's a pisser. She was also like the fire chief, this lady. They're like, oh, you're a potter? And then I show them the pots I make, and they go, oh, wow, that's actually better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Thank you. But she goes like, ask him what he charges for a mug. And I'm like, $65. And they all go, oh my God, like.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have to understand how many hours of work go into that each mug.
And I think if you're gonna, in the research to make a really good mug, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And it's like, yeah, you can go someplace and get like a $20 mug from somebody. It's probably not a great mug. It's probably not a great experience, like to hold and drink from. But
the years behind getting to that point of making that pot too,
Yeah.
Years of making pots and research, and nobody understands that.
Just making handles. I felt like it took me so long to figure out how to make a really comfortable, good handle.
Yep.
And I'll probably look back and be like, that wasn't that good a comfortable handle in 10 years.
It's funny. The kid I have coming on Monday, his name's Josh Smith. He's from up Saratoga, New York way. I actually met him at Alfred, and he makes really great pots. He's amazing on the wheel. I never forget. It was like 15 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago. Him and I swapped a mug and that was back when I was new and pulling handles. And he was like, "You really need to work on your handles." And I was like, "How dare you?" You know what I mean? Now I look back, I go, "Fuck, my handles were terrible." And
It's,
I can't wait to chat with him on Monday to say, "You changed my life." You know?
man, it's great. It's great when you can get, when someone can tell you that. So Phil Harlem, he was one of my former students from right when I was back teaching. So we're about the same. Like sometimes I think he's a lot younger than me, and he tells me how old he is, and I'm like, oh, you're like pretty close to my age. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt like yeah, being his teacher, but we kept up a friendship after he graduated, and we've been like clay buddies since. And there was a time when Guilford needed somebody to teach an adjunct class, and I knew that he was kind of in between things, and so I asked him to come. He lived with us, my family, and and taught at Guilford for a spring semester. And at one point, he comes downstairs, and this is when part of my gallery was like in the house, then in the like the living room, or yeah, the formal living room. And he's like looking at my pots. He's like, the best pots are the ones that you really get in there and like paint. Because I've been like, there might be reds and they're just like brown, and there's like a little bit of stuff. He's like, when you get in there and like paint, like really paint them. I've been doing some like portraits of animals. He's like, those are the best. But I hardly did any because they took so much time. And I was like, I know they are, Phil, I know, but they just take so long. And like, I don't know if I can get the money I need to from them if I'm spending that much time on them. But just planting that seed.
Yeah. Look what you
Like,
did.
it's like I did. And I felt like it was important for me to do that. And it did a lot for my career. And it was just that conversation. And had Phil not been like living with us, and like I may have not had that conversation, and I may have not have like pushed myself in that direction as hard as I have.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear because I love your painted pots. And
Yeah,
it's wild that
they
you
weren't
were
always good.
making them.
I'll try to send you something that wasn't that good so you'll know.
Wow, we're cranking along here. This is great. I have all these questions. We haven't touched on any of them. It's just chat. This is what I love. Um, I was trying to kind of because I just want to chat with folks, but I want people to want to watch the show, and I want them to subscribe, and I want the show to get like sponsorships from Laguna Clay and Speedball and all that good stuff. But we'll get there
Yeah.
eventually. But I don't know. You can send me your thoughts later on how to get there or how to make the show better. Would be great. I would appreciate that. But I would thought we might need to circle and like stick more to process. I think people will watch this show because they want to know how you do what you do. Like people will see me post, oh hey, Charlie Tefft is up next, and they're going to come watch the show because they want to know how you make your pots, right?
Yeah.
So as far as process, I geeked out on your Instagram because I always do some research on people before I chat with them. What wheel are you throwing on? That looked like a treadle wheel with a motor on it. What was that?
Oh no. Yeah. Hold on a second.
Yeah, give us a tour.
A little tour of the studio here. So this is my wheel over here. I just got this old golden Shimpo.
Oh, okay. The stick
It's a
shift.
yeah, it's a little bit stronger than like the gray ones from that time period. But I probably got this like in the, like 96. Probably bought it and have been using it since. And my former teacher gave me hers, so I've got this one that I trim on.
Yes.
But
That's like a treadle wheel like body, isn't it?
no, I just built this. I just built this pan to like
Oh, gotcha.
and put some foam on it. Could you see that? I don't know if I'll show on you from the backside, but I'm just like throwing on electric wheel. I know Ron throws on that treadle wheel. I tell him he can buy an electric one.
Yeah. They have those with motors,
Yeah. You don't have to wear that. Yeah, you're gonna wear your knee out doing that over and over.
Oh yeah, yep.
But I like since I'm a couple days a week. I got this damp closet, and this thing's like homemade. But this is where I store pots. So I'm like make them, and then I'll put them in here. So these are some of those animal ones, and I'll like let them dry slowly. And these whirling teapots. Oh, and then I put this possum on this teapot or this butter dish the other day.
Oh, it's so good.
So I'm like, I'm at the end of my cycle.
Do you keep water in the bottom of that damp
I
box?
I don't know, and the bottom dries faster than the top, and I just close it up, and if you wrap something up and it's in there, it will last a long, long, long time.
Yeah, I
Um,
have this box right here. Actually, this one is the same thing, but I keep like a kitty litter box in the bottom, just full of water to kind of maintain some moisture. I don't know if it really helps or not. To tell you the truth.
does it get moldy in there with all that moisture, or does it? No, it's got
No,
okay.
no.
And
But
then
so yeah, more tour. You got more tour? Show us around.
yeah, so I've got, let's see, so I've got these like pots over here. This is a long story. That I don't know if Phil
Ooh.
made one as well. I was getting a commission, I thought, and then I found out I saw Phil. So I was like, "That's funny, you're making the same thing." It was like this person just asking a bunch of people to make these.
Oh, that's funny because somebody asked me to make that, and I said no.
I
That's
know.
hilarious.
It was like they knew. Yeah, yeah. They
Yeah,
did. It was like a Delftware, right? It was like blue and white, and they're like, can you
yeah. I was like,
yeah.
no, I'm not
Like,
making that.
have
Nope.
you looked at my pot?
That's hilarious. Wow.
And then I've got all this bisqueware. Some of it's busted. I've got all these trays and things. I've got a buddy of mine, a former student who's was an adult student, works for me 2 days a week, and he puts together all the slab stuff.
Ray.
Ray,
Yeah, he
Ray's
looks like a
awesome.
cool dude.
He is awesome. Yeah, it's changed my life just having him here. And I make these forms out of this pink insulation foam, and I like cut it with a bandsaw and
Yep.
shape it with an orbital sander. And so
Yep.
those things are super forgiving too. I don't know if you've ever used that stuff, but it's like you can, if something dries out too much, it usually doesn't break. You can, and you just have
Yeah.
to like pry it out of there.
Oh, that's fantastic. I tried making a big form out of. I wanted to make a big vase type form out of that foam a couple of years ago, and then make just half of one so you could drape over it and then take the two pieces and put them together.
Yes,
You got a big vase.
I want to do that
I
too.
never thought about sanding it with an orbital sander. That's genius.
Yeah, you got to go. If you hang out too long, it'll melt. So you got to
You
kind
know
of
what
keep
I
moving.
noticed? I put like a crazy glue to glue the pieces together and it melts it.
Yes, it's like ate
I
it
was
up.
like,
I
oh,
don't know. There's some way to glue that stuff together, but you probably need like a special caulk. And
yeah.
then and so I've also got this like wear shelf here in the middle of the studio that just like I just put pots on as I'm working on them.
That's a big space. Is that a garage or is that in a separate
It's a
space?
it's like 20 by 20. It's behind my house. Let me go outside. It's behind my house. We bought this place because this building was here, and it had garage doors over here where the
Yeah.
double doors are, and I replaced it with those double doors.
Oh,
And
that's
it was a raw space, and we bought it, and I insulated it and did the
I'm super
wiring, and
jealous of the sunlight right there, by the way.
yeah,
I
and
mean, the
yeah.
sun's
So
pretty here, but it's 21 degrees out. You got a kiln shed there. You're a soda fire?
I'm gas firing. I'm gonna pick up a pot here, and it's a sprayed wood ash glaze. This is Richard Arney's. This is the one he published in like '94 or something like that. His Ceramics Monthly, his Frasca ash glaze, and I
Yeah.
used to use it. I used to use it and just have it like run down the pots, and I would
Oh
just
yeah.
like. I think I got a piece up here. This is like from early on. So I would just spray it on there and
Yeah.
different versions of it, and it would run on there. And then
And
I
you're a cone
realized,
10?
sorry, what was that?
Is that cone 10 always, or
Cone 10 always, yeah.
I see you have an electric kiln there. Are you transitioning, or you do some electric, some 10, or both? You go electric 10. Oh, I lost your audio there. No.
All right, what's going on?
There it goes. It said Charlie's recording stopped. There we go. Now you're back.
Okay, sorry, did someone try to call me?
Oh yeah, that happens.
But so I was actually down in Atlanta and I was making pots down there, and it's hard to find wood ash down there. So I went to a barbecue place and was like, "Hey, you guys have any ash I can take off your hands?" And so they gave me like a 5-gallon bucket, but it had like chunks of probably the grate in it, like rusted metal coming off of the bars.
Yep.
And so I'd get these like iron spots, and then I realized I didn't like them when they were big, but then when I moved back to North Carolina, I kind of missed the small ones, so I was putting little dots of iron. So I mixed up this wash, mixed up an iron wash that was 70% iron and 30% Guernsey borate or Laguna borate or whatever borate you can get. And so
Mm-hmm.
I did that for the brown and then black. And most of my pots are painted with those two things, just that 70-30 mix. And it evolved out of like dots to lines to like bigger marks to like, oh, maybe I can paint with this stuff, and some pretty crude paintings at the beginning to
Mm-hmm.
where, and then people would challenge, people say, can you paint that thing that on that big pot on this like little thing for me? And I was like, I don't know if I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I would try it, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. But the glaze runs a lot, and so you gotta you gotta put just enough on. And
Yeah,
not
that's
too
the
much.
wood ash is well known for running, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes a pretty runny glaze. So yeah, so this guy has this like almost clear wood ash glaze over the painting, and then everywhere else it's got this one with some cobalt and some iron in it. Um,
Yeah, that's so
and
good.
that's like, and so it's like pooling and running, and I just sort of like over the years I figured out how to put that on just enough to get it to do the things I want to do with the
Yep.
paintings. But it's like the kind of thing where it's, if someone said, I want to paint on pots, like what material should I use? It's like, oh, definitely an ash glaze. It's like, no, you don't want to. It's
Yeah,
like terrible.
yeah, that's
But
funny.
a lot of trial and error.
Well, it's funny
The
you
one.
just
Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
One of the other big things was, um, I used to battle with like an eyeball or like a beak to a bird, like migrating, like turning to like liquid and moving, like or like turning into a ball, like a beak turning into a ball
Okay, yep.
because it melted too much. So I
Yeah.
so I'd struggled with that for years, and then at some point I fired a kiln and I pulled a piece out, and I was like, man, the painting on this thing is like crisp. And I look at the inside, and my clear glaze, I can tell it's been oxidized. It's like not doesn't have that like bluish tint to it. It's like got
Yep.
like more of like towards a yellow tint. And I was like, oh man, this reduction, which makes iron 10 times more powerful as a flux, is affecting my paintings. I need to fire without going into reduction. And being in a gas kiln and like firing outside of reduction seemed like you just didn't. I don't know. People just didn't do that. I never heard of that. So
So a couple of times right there, you said, I did that for a couple of years, and then I tried this for a couple of years, and that kind of comes back around to what we were talking about earlier. Like, you're gonna open the kiln and go, shit. You know what I
yes,
mean?
yeah.
And it's really sucks when you have an expectation for that pot. Like you go to bed thinking, oh, I can't wait to see that tomorrow, and it's
Or
just
yeah, or you spend a lot of time on it. It's like it's like you invest so much time, and then it does not come out good, and you think like you and the beauty of that is you've learned, it's like taught you a valuable lesson, right? But
yep, yep,
sometimes it's hard to figure out what that lesson is, and sometimes that lesson is just like hard to swallow,
yep,
like
yep.
that pot like cracking on you. It's like, I know better. I know better than to do this, but I felt like I needed it, and I put it in there, and I thought it was going to be okay, and damn it, why did I do it? I need to.
One of my
Yeah.
life's mottos is expectations are premeditated resentments. Right?
Yeah.
So all I was thinking about right there when you were saying all that was the how it's just like golf, right? Because I've been playing since I was a kid, and I'm pretty damn good at this game, and I can go out and just have these days where you go, "What is happening right now? Like, how can I have put so much work into this and still play this bad?" Like,
Yeah.
it's just a humbling thing, man.
Now, what do you, when you have that experience, whether it be in clay or on the course, do you walk away for a day? Do you like how do you deal with that disappointment or that struggle at that moment? Are you yeah.
Um, I just keep making stuff, or I'll just go to the range and figure out what I was doing, or I'll ask a friend who I know is smarter than me, hey, what am I doing? And look at my swing, and they'll go, oh, you're doing this. And I go, oh, shit, I didn't even notice that, you know?
Yeah. I feel like
2 years.
yeah, I feel like that's happened to me in clay before too, where it's like, you just like start to like drift and you don't even know you're drifting. And then like all of
Yeah.
a sudden it's like, you like something's happening that you didn't expect to happen. And you're like, why the hell is this happening? Like,
Yeah,
I
oh,
didn't do
yeah.
anything different. And it's like, well, you did something a little different for a long time and it led you to this place.
I was playing with my buddy Shane last year, and he used to be a golf pro, and it was one of those days where everything I hit was missing left. Hit the ball and go, what the hell was that? It's just whoa, what was that? And he, or on like the 12th hole, and he says, dude, you're just swinging a shut club face. So what are you talking about? So he said, you're taking the club away, you're taking the club shut. So as I was taking it back, my hands were rolling in, and it was shutting the club face. So then I'm swinging, and I'm just swinging it shut, and I'm like, how come you waited to the 12th hole to tell me that? He says, because we're playing for money.
I know, right? Yeah, he's gonna win. He's gonna win big.
Jerk. Yeah. But it just happens. I played the New York State Am a couple of years ago, and I think I shot 2 under in the qualifier, and then I played a practice round the day before with my buddy who's a member at this club, and I think I shot 3 under. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. The morning of, I shot an 81. I was like, what the hell was that? And he was walking with me, and he's by the 4th hole. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. It's gone. Yeah, that's just, oh well.
Oh,
Let's see. So we're over an hour. We still got some stuff to cover. You got more time? You
I
want to keep
probably
chatting?
I probably got about like 30 more minutes before I got to run.
All right, we'll just see what else we can cover. What didn't I cover? So we were just talking about that. I have written down here like, what is that blue? And you said that's the Fresca ash, or
Yeah, yeah. When Richard Arney put that out, he didn't put he was like, this is the base recipe, and these are some things you can add to it. It's an awesome recipe. It's 50% ash, and then the other 50% is 4 parts. It's equal parts of OM4 tiles. Wait, no, OM4 silica whiting, and I was using custard feldspar, but Medhever's probably fine for that. And so those are like 12.5 a piece. And then add some colorants to it. Like I put a bunch of iron in there and get like this like rusty brown to like golden color, and then like chrome or iron and cobalt give you a dark if there's enough of it. And
yeah, I just love that blue.
yeah, so yeah, I mean it was a mistake. I was trying to get black and I got that.
Whoops.
And it's like, and not knowing anything about glaze chemistry at the time, I was like, why won't this turn black? And it's like, oh, I mean, you could put like black mason stain in it, but then you kind of like lose all the subtlety that you get when it's thin to thick because everything's just black.
That's what I was thinking. Can you put mason stain in that and make it any color you want?
Yeah, I think where you get these like thin spots that like are like light colored,
Yeah.
you just don't get as much of that like light colored
And
because I don't know, maybe I don't know, it might do it.
yeah, no variation.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny the way you learn those things. I was talking to Kate yesterday, and she's a terra sigillata person like I am, and I said I love when you get those moments. Like I was at Ensika a couple of years ago, and I was watching Matt and Rose Katz talk. You know Matt and Rose?
Yes, from he's at Alfred, isn't he?
They both were. Now they live. I think they're in Massachusetts or something.
Okay,
They have
he
that.
does the glaze, he does the online like glaze
Yeah,
workshop.
yeah. They're both
Yeah.
super smart.
Yes.
And they're fun to chat with. Actually, I used to work with Rose in a tile factory back in the day. But I remember watching Matt talking about trying to make a black terra sigillata, and he's like, it was driving me crazy. Everything I did just kept coming out gray. Couldn't understand why until I realized I was using OM4, which is a white ball clay. He's like, so I just started making it with red art, and I'm
Uh-huh.
standing there, and I just went bling, like, you idiot.
Yeah.
Because I was fighting the same thing.
I know, and I think that was for me like that. It was like the reduction firing. It's like I didn't even think to fire an oxidation because it's like what you do is reduction fire. It's like the recipe has OM4 on it. You make it with OM4. You're like you don't deviate. Why
Yeah,
deviate? You know?
yeah, yeah. That stuff is wild. My friend Matt, who we were talking about earlier, he uses a brown clay. Mostly, I think it's like mostly red art. It's like 70-30 red art and OM4.
Okay.
And it's really nice and smooth and fun to throw with. But so I made some of his clay. He sent me the recipe, and I made some of it. And then he had this green, and I said, "Oh, that's a great green." So he sent me the recipe, and I made a bucket full of that. And I tried it on my clay. Nope, you know. And then I made his clay and tried it. Nope. It's just, just do your thing.
What? Yeah. What do you think it was? It was just he didn't give you the real recipe, did he?
No, I think he did. I think we fire differently. It definitely didn't work on my clay. It came out terrible on my clay. But I found out a way to make it work if I put it over black terra sigillata. When I use black, it comes out really kind of looks like graphite. People are like, "Is that black clay?" I said, "Well, no," and they don't believe me. I'm like, "No,
I've seen that. It's beautiful.
It's terra sigillata over brown, but yeah, it's fun to mess with. What else we got here? So are you going to NCECA this year?
Well, it's out in I'm not. It's at what is it out in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, Salt Lake City.
You know what? I started to do when my first daughter was on her way. I was like, I gotta like sell more pots. And so I started to do this show, this Catawba Valley Pottery Festival in Hickory, North Carolina, and at the end of March. And it's like conflicts with NCECA. And it's been a good show for me. It's like a big part of my spring income. So I haven't been to NCECA in so long.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. If I was doing a demo or some sort of presentation, I'd be happy to go. I think I might drive out to Detroit next year, though.
Yeah, Detroit might be fun. Ron and Phil were with you last year there, but they called me up while they were out there, and I was like, man, I should be out there. It was like a driving distance from us when it was when it was in Richmond, and I thought, God, what am I doing? But then I was hanging out I was like seeing all my buddies at the Catawba Valley Pottery Festival. And
making money.
It's like my mini NCECA here.
Yeah, and making money instead of spending money.
Yeah.
I remember when I saw them, I was walking around town with Paul Blaze, from the Potter's Cast.
Yeah.
He's the funnest guy. He's my cigar buddy. Like every time I see him, we go find a cigar shop and walk around town and smoke a cigar and laugh our ass off. But we bumped into Ron and Phil walking down the street, and it was really funny. I go, "Hey, Ron, I love your pots." He goes, "I love your pots." And I go, I look at Phil. I go, "Oh, hey, I love your pots." He goes, "I love your pots."
Yeah.
It was really funny. On the corner, we're like, "Hey, dude, I know you."
Yeah, I've had that experience with Ron too when I first met him.
It's wild to see people only from Instagram.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like Ron's a lot like his pots.
Very chill. Yep.
Yeah, and he's like fun. It's just I'm always laughing when I'm talking with him, and it's I feel like there's so much humor in his work. I love his work.
We just swapped a mug. I just sent him a mug. He's gonna send me one. I just sent him a piece to collab with. Ooh, we should do that. Ooh, you want to collab a piece? You don't have to answer now. Answer me afterwards. You might be like, "No."
I'll collab a piece. Yeah.
That'd be fun as shit.
Yeah.
What else? I don't know. This has been great, man. I knew you'd be fun to talk to.
Yeah, Mike, it's been wonderful. I don't see enough people during the day, except when I'm teaching.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I enjoy that. To tell you the truth.
I know, really. It's like you can't. Yeah, it's like I think when you're young, it's like just in the studio is like great, right? Just like, and then as you get older, it's like I kind of need a little bit more than just in the studio. Just be with myself.
Yeah, I need my space. Okay, so I don't want to end. I want to chat some more, but we'll do it again. We'll talk more. But you got to leave us with: have you thought of one good tip? And it could be a clay tip that you learned through your journey, or it could be a life tip that somebody told you. What do you got?
I think okay. When you're throwing a frisbee, when you're throwing a disc, right? From my ultimate days, and you're throwing into the wind, right? If you're gonna throw it back into the wind, you want to tilt that thing almost like vertical, so that when it hits the wind, it's gonna like want to flatten out, and so like as it gets some distance on it, it'll like come out flat. It's my
The frisbee tip is the best one yet. I love it. You know what I've tried to play? I've tried to play the disc golf, and when I was a kid, we would use those ultimate, what are they,
yeah,
17 gram
yeah,
frisbees, and I
like the
could throw
lid,
that
yeah,
thing. I could throw it 300 yards, and then you
yeah.
get these little discs, and I threw my arm out trying to make the thing go 50 feet.
I haven't played yet. If I was to do it, I'd have to play with what we call like a lid, like the 175, like ultimate frisbee.
Yeah, big old things, those big pieces of plastic. Those are great. But anyway, I think that's it. We're done. That was fantastic, sir. Oh, tell us where we can buy your pots and where you're at.
CTpottery.com is my website, and that's just the letter C and the letter T. And then on Instagram, I'm C Tefft, and that's TEFFT1, and Charlie Tefft on Facebook. And I've been trying to post every day this year. I'm pretty close. But yeah, and I ship all over the United States, sometimes out of the country too. But
Are you in some galleries currently?
you know what? I've been selling it all through my site or in person, and so I've been able to just focus on them. If I get asked to a show, like I did, the last one was maybe not Airmount, Red Lodge. I'd send a bunch of pots out to Red Lodge, like
Okay.
maybe like
Yep.
10 or 15. But I'm trying not to send 40 pots to anybody.
Yeah. The last one I did was 50 pots. I was like, good Lord, that's a whole season for me.
Man, during the pandemic, I was asked to do a show someplace, and at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was like, awesome, that's great, I love it. It was like 40 pots. And then by the time the show came up, I was like, I'm losing $2,500 on this show. I'm doing everything. But photographing the pots. I'm shipping them. I'm labeling them. I'm measuring them. And it's costing me $2,500. And that was the last. I was like, I'm not doing it again. Ron and I talk about this sometimes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Ron, yeah. But
I talked to Phil about it, actually. I have a bowl up there that I love it. I would sell it for probably $250. And if I ship that to a gallery, they're going to get $125. It's going to cost me $50 to ship it.
yeah. Hey, do you use Pirate Ship to ship stuff? Do you ship stuff?
No, I'm writing that down.
Pirate Ship. It's the cheapest way to ship. And then how about do you use a ram pack machine? Do you know those things? The corrugated where you just roll the pot in it?
Oh, yeah.
Those two things can change your shipping life. I used to hate to pack pots, but do you get that ram pack stuff? And a mug, I can wrap up a mug and put it in a box 5 minutes, and that thing is ready to go out the door.
Is that the stuff you buy in the roll? And it's all kind of
And you can buy a machine. You can buy them. They'll send you a machine for $100. They call it renting, but they never ask for it back. And I think if it breaks, you can get a new one.
Really?
And then you can get bulk rolls. So I get I don't know, 1,000 feet of this paper at a time.
What's the name of it again?
What's that?
What's the name of that?
It's called Ranpak, RANPAK. If you need, I'll send you my contact person from the place I got it from Morissette.
I would love to have a little bit more consistent packing. I just kind of recycle what I have, and I feel when somebody's paying me $100 or $200 for a piece, and I'm just kind of slapping it in plastic and taking it. I feel like it should be a little bit more better presented. You know what I mean?
I was saving. I had a good paper supply from leftovers from newsprint, where they give you a roll, be this big around, and it lasts. It'd be quite a bit of paper. But they moved that up to Virginia, so I don't have that paper anymore. So after Christmas, I was saving all the wrapping paper trash, and I was using that to pack it around.
Yeah.
So I'll wrap that ram pack stuff, and then I'll put some padding around it. But I don't I hardly ever double box unless it's a really big shipment of pots. Or
my wife has a framing business, so she has those big rolls of brown paper because she puts it on the back of each piece. So I'm always and she's like, "Would you stop using it?"
It's it's free, honey. It's free. I just go over here.
Yeah. All right, Charlie. This has been freaking awesome. I look forward to chatting with you again. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you.
I look forward to meeting you in person, Mike. Hopefully it'll
Yeah,
happen sometime
yeah,
next
can't
week.
wait. I'll actually be down in Wilmington in April. How far are you from Wilmington?
About 3 hours, but let me know when you come down. Are you doing a workshop?
Yeah, yep, at the Coastal Carolina Clay Guild.
Okay, maybe I can get Ron and and Phil will drive down, hang out.
Dude, that'd be fun. We could meet halfway and have dinner or something.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right, very cool.
Take
I'm gonna
care,
hit
Mike.
stop. Chat a little bit more after, man. Thank you so much. You're
All
the
right.
best.
All right. See you, Mike.
Yeah.